Yes,
Yeah, sorry, I was not able to hear you before.
excuse me. Welcome to the SAP IP Business Talk. I think we had we had a sound problem, so now you hear me very well. So I'm happy that Benjamin Delsol is today with us. We talk about patenting AI in Europe. This live show is about telling you something about the SAP Executive IP Management Days early in April, 1st and 2nd of April. Benjamin is one of our university lecturers there, and this certificate is especially about the delicate aspects on patenting AI, also on use cases and Industry 4.0, especially when it comes to these applications of AI and AI itself. We will have another live show with Dr. Robert Klinsky in 2 weeks and discuss his part of this certificate lecture. So I'm very happy that Benjamin is with us. I heard you are right now in Paris. And you were in Dubai. We saw that on your quantum conference. Tell us a little bit, Benjamin. What is your background, and especially how did you came into this strange field of intellectual property?
Thank you, Alex. I'm very, very happy to be here today. So yeah, I mean, in one word, Albert Einstein. Two words, sorry. Let me explain. So when I was a kid, at 9 years old, something like that, I wanted to be astrophysicist, and so I studied already a lot, reading at least at 9 years old, a lot about physics, astrophysics, and so on. And one day I discovered, I found the word quantum physics, and I didn't know what it was at this time. So I was very interested in it, learning about it. And then at 10 years old, I wanted to have my PhD in quantum physics one day. And so I was very proud to get it, several years later, of course. And after that, I discovered that working in a lab was not exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, basically. I always had a very good taste for business, law. So at one point, and thanks to Albert Einstein in a way, because of course I was aware that he has worked at Bern in Switzerland at the patent office at one point in his life, I was aware of what was more or less a patent and the patent field. So I said, yeah, maybe it could be interesting to mix indeed science with law. So just after my PhD, I decided to go to work for an IP law firm, private practice. And I was kind of very lucky because my two mentors in this firm were IP strategists as well, just as also European patent attorney and French patent attorney and so on. And so I learned IP in a strategic way. For me, IP has always been a business tool, not just a legal tool, but really a business tool. And so it's like cheating in a way because today we don't have a lot of IP strategists. Most of the European patent attorneys, French patent attorney, or in general patent attorneys, are not very into the IP strategy side. So for me, it's natural basically. So I spent 7 years in this in private practice, and with a focus in deep tech, nanoelectronics, microelectronics, a lot, and quite soon directly into everything about computer implemented inventions, so software related inventions, and of course a lot of AI. And that became kind of my stuff. Basically, I was the guy you call when you don't know how to patent something. And of course, in AI and software, especially in Europe, it was most of the time for me. And because of that, after these 7 years, I have been called by a Swiss company that wanted to go into digital, and they wanted me to work with them and to manage the IP side of this digital transformation stuff. So I said yes. I wanted to have this experience in an in-house position, just to see the other side. When you work in a private practice, you see only one aspect of the client. You don't see everything. So I spent 2 years in this firm, learning a lot about the business, about the impact of IP. But basically, that was not enough. I mean, the idea on the paper was great, but in reality, the change was not happening. So I decided to create my own practice. So I created my own company in Switzerland with the idea of there is no business without innovation, no innovation without IP, and no IP without business. So really addressing the three pillars. And quickly, to be able to do that, I decided to have these fractional chief intellectual property officer positions with my clients, because it's something to say to a client, you should do that, you should do that, you should do that, but basically they don't have the time, the resources to do it. So basically what I do, what I say to all my clients, it's I don't tell you what to do, I come to do it for you with your teams, with your within your organization. So really, it's this idea of a fractional head of IP, or we can call it whatever we want. But the idea is to manage, to create IP strategies, to manage this and to implement these strategies within the company.
So what I learned is that you're really in this interplay between business interests and application of IP, and that you
Exactly.
try to bring that together. So I
Exactly.
would like to start to talk about AI, because that is really our topic today. And so for some people, AI is something which happens in the future anyhow. So I mean, it becomes better and better that people realize that it is not something about the future, that it is a fact today. But still, I hear also from business representatives, decision makers, that they hope that it won't come too fast to them. And so we see obviously showcase applications, and we see more and more from them. But what would you say from your experience? So you're traveling a lot, you see a lot, you work a lot with companies. So what would you say? What are the current most important AI trends, especially in the industry, and we call that then industry 4.0? So
Yes.
what do you see there?
What I mean, it's again, it's like cheating, Industry 4.0 when you talk about AI, because it's AI is everywhere. If we talk about Industry 4.0, basically, Industry 4.0, as you know, it's the idea of getting data, a lot of data from facilities, from supply chains, and so on, and to use this data in a clever way to improve things, to optimize things, to predict maintenance issues, and so on, for example. So, of course, AI is like the brain of the Industry 4.0. Basically, Industry 4.0 has been kind of designed for AI, because with all this data, if you want to use them correctly and do something with them, you need AI. So what we see right now, it's basically a lot in predictive maintenance. This idea of being able to anticipate when a device or a machine will fail, to be able to replace it before the failing point. We have a lot of course, digital twins, this great idea, and which is already in place in some companies, to have this complete digital twin of a facility or a supply chain, and to be able with sensors, captors, and so on, to get information for that, put it into your digital twin, and then optimize things, try things, and so on. And AI, of course, it's also a big player here. And what we have, of course, it's everything about autonomous production lines, autonomous, robots that will collaborate with humans as well. So AI is basically everywhere where you can find data, you can put an AI behind. And this is what we see. We see that a lot of patent application filed are about the use of AI. So basically, we have two sides. We have one side, which is patenting how an AI is created, basically, how it works, exactly what is the transformers and so on. We have some patents about that. And the other side is the use cases, how to use AI to do things, to solve technical problems, basically.
Okay, so
So
what
this
you
is,
say is we have to distinguish the AI as such,
yes,
and I would say only a few companies on the planet
yes,
do
yeah,
want to improve AI as such. I mean, that was what I talked about 2 weeks ago with Robert Plotkin. So Robert is really about patenting AI as such, and he's focusing on these startups which develop new AIs. And you say we should separate that from AI solutions, AI applications.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, I had a wonderful meeting with Ben Delsol in Norway in November, and we both gave keynotes to these AI and IP issues. And she said something which really triggered me. She said, so the Norwegian industry is very rich. So the Norwegian state is very rich because they have that oil and they have only a few industries. And she said, the Norwegian industry so far was not anyhow affected about the digitalization in terms of they made that so they have these shipyards and they have this oil rigs, and I mean very good old economy and bricks and mortars technology. And then she said, and maybe that you bypassed the digitalization, so you don't need e-commerce and these kind of things, but you cannot bypass AI. AI will affect you anyway. So on whichever stage in the digitalization you are, AI will affect you. And I like that, because what you said is these when we come with this industry 4.0, right? So we say, okay, there is this 1.0, 2.0, and this is an evolution. But many people see that even when you have not digitalized so far, you can have these agents, they can work with you. And of course, it's better you have your data, but even if not, AI will have an impact. So do you see that also in that way?
No, clearly, because I mean, digitalization was one step, but AI transformation, as I like to call it like that, it's really something that it's on its own, as you said. I mean, you don't need your own data, basically, because when you have a model that has been trained on the data of someone else in the same industry as you are, basically, it works for you. So indeed, you don't need this digital transformation to reach an AI transformation then. You can directly do your AI transformation directly. And this is a complete different way to think. And that's why for companies it's so difficult right now, because most of them want to use AI because it's trendy and buzzing word, and so we want to use AI, but they don't know how to do it exactly. They don't have an AI strategy. They don't know if they use it internally to increase the productivity, for example, or if they use it as a solution for the customers. So, and because it's completely new and there is not this a real evolution, it's really a revolution. You don't go from slowly to get the AI. No, it's AI. It's right now. It's a step. It's a big, huge step. And
or like Clayton Christensen said, it is disruptive. So I
exactly.
like that, because unfortunately, many people don't use the term disruption in the right way. So how Clayton described it. And what he said is something starts like a toy. Okay, so it's just for the niche markets. It's not really relevant and reasonable, and people laughing because we have this huge oil rig and we have the shipyard and we have all these fixed assets. So go away with your children toy, these AI. But exactly that has this disruptive character. And when you don't care about it, the danger is extremely high. That's what people say. Not AI will compete with people. So people with AI will compete with people without AI. That's a different thing.
Yeah,
So,
and we see it
we talked about the trends in AI in Industry 4.0. So what do you see there? So so you said there is no real strategy behind that quite often. So is that in different countries in a different way, or is it a general experience which you have?
it depends on the size of the company, basically. if you take some companies like Siemens and so on, big companies, they have a strategy because they have the resources and time to think about it before it happens. So right now they are ready basically. But if we talk about smaller companies, uh, it's happened like that, and they don't know how to react to it. And I think we see that a lot in the EU. But if we go into in Canada and US, where I work a lot as well, it's different, as always, because they see directly how to use it as a business tool, always. So AI, it's rapidly integrated into the companies because they see that they can increase productivity, they can increase blah, 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 they can optimize blah, blah, blah. So they understand that they can make more money with it quite very quickly. In Europe, we don't have this. We don't like taking risk in Europe. In the US, they are willing to take risk, and I think when we are facing a disruptive technology like that, if you like to take risk, you go and you try. If you don't like to take risk, you don't really want to. It's difficult,
Yeah,
especially
obviously.
for decision makers. Yeah.
It starts with change. So how do you, why should I change my business? So this is, I would say, meanwhile I would call AI like an external shock. And really we have to adapt to that, and then we come to tease and this dynamic capability. So how can we adapt to it? So mhm.
It's a comparison between the steam engine and the electricity. At this time, people wanted to stay with the steam engine, thinking that it's good, it's better, it works well, blah, blah, blah. And the electricity, they don't know what it is, it's dangerous maybe, blah, blah, blah. And so there was companies that was staying with their steam engines and others that trying to go into electricity. And now we know which win and which lose.
I'm loving this example. But in the steam engine, electrical engine time, the companies had around 25 years, so one generation of engineers. Okay,
Yes.
one
Yes.
generation of engineers. They had time to adapt. So we have made maybe months. Yeah. So every week comes the next generation of these LLMs out, and now we have not just transformer models. Now also diffusion models are used for language generation and so on. So it's incredible what happens there. So what we see, and this fits to this experience, what we see is a surge in AI patents in Europe, really, and they come like the classical 1/3 from US, 1/3 from Asia, and 1/3 from Europe. So we're not lagging behind so far. But what would you say? What is the current status on AI patenting in Europe? What is the practice here?
Yeah, I think the practice is directly related with the fact that in Europe we have a very strong patent law and criteria to get a patent. EPO is very well known to be very strict and with this very technical effect requirement. That means that for several companies, filing a patent in Europe and get it is granted means a lot to investors, to clients, to customers, or whatever. They understand that if it's an European patent that has been granted, that means that's very good technology, basically. So what we see right now is indeed 33% US, 33% Asia, 33% EU. And here again, a lot in the use case more than in the real how works exactly the AI, because basically it's logical. It's easier basically to find a use case for an AI than to design an AI. So we have very few companies, as you said, that patent how to design an AI, and a lot of that
like
patent
Mistral
how to
or
use it.
so, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mistral, for example. So I mean, we can name them basically, but we cannot really name all the companies that file for use cases. So this is clearly. So this technical effect requirement in Europe is very powerful to deliver very high quality patents. So I think this is one thing. we have several other questions regarding the EPO. For example, the inventorship. Because what we see more and more, and we will see it even more in the few months or next few years, it's of course AI-generated inventions. So the big question will be, of course, and we know already the position today of the EPO about does an AI can be an inventor? Of course, right now, no. It may evolve, and we know, for example, that in front of the USPTO, for example, they don't want AI-generated inventions. But I mean, AI is touching so many areas when we talk about patent, because there is.
Benjamin, excuse me, before we come to the point of the AI-generated inventions, which is really a different issue, I would like to stay a little bit with the use cases. So there, I'm listening to a lot of podcasts and also some very, very good ones, and one of the discussion is how can you create a mold around your business model? And let us for a second, because I think this is not so relevant for our audience, let us ignore the AI developing companies, because there are just a few, and we will see how at the end of the day how they make their money. Okay, so we in Europe, we have a very classical industrial economy. So lots of companies are either service providers or they produce tangible products. They are manufacturers to this or that extent. And obviously, there are a lot of AI applications. I would say they are countless, limitless. And at the end, we have this ladder. So we have the manual process, and then the manual process is automated, and you patent it. And then the automated process is then digitalized, and you patent it again. And then on top of the digitalized process, maybe you use an AI to optimize all the things which are down there, and you patent it again. So and when we follow that logic, we could say, to be very black and white, but we could say that everything what we did so far, we could do that with AI, and we can patent it, because now when we use a technical mean and solving a technical problem, and we do that with the complete different logic of using an AI, so that could lead into direction into the direction of a patent. So the question is, would you recommend to think in that way? Would you recommend to patent that? Or is it then a thing of enforcement, infringement detection? What is your position on that?
Yes. So, of course, in any computer implemented invention, the big question is enforcement. It's very hard to be able to enforce a patent regarding a software solution. So, in AI, the same, because to be able to prove that all the steps that you claimed in the claim 1, for example, are indeed infringed by a competitor, it's very, very difficult. So I would say that patenting AI is not the idea of enforcing the patent. I mean, the first function of a computer implemented invention should not be enforcement, I think, because it's very difficult. I think, and for the freedom to operate, it's a mess as well. It's very difficult to check. But I mean, the first move would be probably two things. First, of course, attract investors. For sure, it helps a lot. But the second point is also to create trust within your customers. Because when you patent a technology, you need to reveal how it works. So in a way, if you patent an AI solution, your customers can know how you do it. And because they know how you do it, they can trust you or not, up to you, or up to them. But at least it's not a black box. And the idea of patenting AI, I think, it's a good way to kind of decrease the black box effect that we have with AI, where we don't know how it works. We don't understand what happens with my data, blah, blah, blah. In a patent, at least, we have this piece of explainability, which is, I think, a very important topic when we talk about AI and trust, because if people don't understand how it works, they will not trust the solution. So I would say patenting AI is not the idea of infringement. It's more an idea of really enforcement. Sorry, it's more an idea of I think trust, attract investors, of course, and collaboration as well. It's a good chip to bargain with competitors and so on. Because I mean, it's hard for us to enforce a patent. It's the same for the competitor. So at one point, it's maybe even better to have some cross licensing or even patent pools around some
Yeah.
technologies than trying to go to
I would
work.
like to. Okay, got you 100%. I would like to focus for a second on the deep lake side, which we created for the event, for the certificate, and here is a wonderful example in it. And this is Espen Beck. I don't know, Benjamin, whether you know this example, because Espen was a finalist on the European Patent Office European Inventor Award in 2019. So it's around 5 years ago,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
bit
yeah.
more.
Already, yeah.
And so this is a brilliant case in which we don't have the time to go into the details, but basically what Espen did is, so it's about a laser cannon against salmon pests, and what he's explaining here, and I recommend to the audience to check that case and to go into the details, because he invented and patented a robot. Okay, basically, and a robot which is able to autonomous identify this little lax, this salmon lice, and can kill that pest with a laser. So that's it.
Mhm.
And what Aspen did is he patented the use case. Okay,
Yeah.
so the logic of using a laser to kill that lice,
Yeah.
and in the video, so the question is, how do you do that? So he's explaining a lot of things. Okay, so and the patent says there is a software running on a computer and doing all the things. So calculating the trajectory of the salmon, identifying the lice. So the software is doing the job. Okay, and at the end, I'm able to do it. So in the video, from the EPO Inventor Award, he tells to the audience that this software is an AI application. And I
Yeah.
would say, obviously, okay? So,
Yes.
and I like that so much because the EPO, so it's obviously a granted patent, and it is not a question of disclosure here because the AI is not the inventive part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it is the
Exactly.
implementing technology.
Yeah.
The invention is what you're doing with it, and that is something I think. What would you say, is that a route which we could recommend, to say, when you don't think your AI is something special, so don't mention. Yeah, it is simply, this is not your invention, and then you don't have to disclose this aspect of your technology. Is that a route which you would recommend, when, because of the
Yes.
limits of infringement detection and enforceability?
For this limit and also the scope of protection, because right now you don't explain how exactly, I mean, what is the AI and what it does and so on. You don't just explain that using a software, you can get a result. And that's enough, because the invention, again, is not about the software, it's about the use case and the robot with the laser and so on. So basically, yes, it's a very good move, because first, your AI solution today can evolve tomorrow, but your robot will be still probably the same, with the laser the same, with the detection and so on the same. But the way to treat the information can change with time. So that's good if it's not included into the scope of protection. And then it's, of course, a very good trade secret as well, because again, reverse engineering on that is very hard, because enforcement is hard. Reverse engineering is most of the time hard as well. So I would say, yes, it's a very good strategy to try to protect with a patent the use case, but to keep as a trade secret the root of the AI, what is doing.
Okay, thank you. I have a question now from
Yeah.
Lisa. she comes back to your point that this has a lot to do. So patenting can be used as a trust building instrument, a tool. And she says when you recommend that, when you say that that is a route to go, then when? So what is the timing of the communication? And when we say, so definitely after 18 months after filing, we have the publication. So the question is, when should we use this instrument and maybe to whom? So what do you think about that?
I would say most of the time, especially because it's a kind of a logical practice for scientists, they like to publish on archive or publish scientific papers, So I recommend, as most of the time, unless specific situations where you're not really sure that you could get the patent and maybe you want to retract it before the publication or stuff like that, most of the time it's very indeed useful to publish. And it's not only useful, is that it's a wish from the inventors themselves to publish their research in scientific papers. So yes, I think, and this is what we see, companies doesn't wait 18 months to publish. They publish quite directly after the filing most of the time. Unless you want to keep some part as trade secret, of course.
Got you. I would like to switch the topic again a little bit. Let's stay for a second to this delicate issue of AI as an inventor. You have experience with that. I know that with your tools, and I have a lot of experience with that. And Robert, we talked 2 weeks ago about this issue, and it even when at the moment, I have the feeling at the moment people hide that a bit, but I saw already. I think Bastian Best. So I saw the first LinkedIn post about inventing things with AI. It's obvious, for everybody who is in this field that AI can invent. So no doubt about that. The question is obviously, would it make sense to accept the AI as individual or sole inventor, or should we simply keep the rule anyhow a human was involved, and insofar, and Robert said something, I don't know whether you were online or have the recording seen, but it's fascinating. He said very simple, I'm US and I make it very practical, pragmatic. We want to incentivize humans to invest in invention. So, and I cannot incentivize an AI. I want to incentivize a human being to invest in inventing, and insofar we stay with the rule that we need a human. So, what is your position on that?
Oh, that's kind of simple. It's very pragmatic as well. AI is a tool right now. It's like you said, you are using a CAO software to create a piece of material. So it's not because you use a tool that you are not inventing something. So of course, when we talk about AI, we think that maybe it's the AI that do everything. So first question, does an AI solution could be an AI-generated invention could be patented in a way that if it's an AI that generated, it's obvious. This is the first question before even thinking about putting an AI as an inventor.
That leads to one of the questions here in the chat that Soad said, do we need a different evaluation process? So this is what you said now. So when it comes from an AI, it's obvious.
Yeah. Some patent office could think that like this way. From my point of view, and this is very personal, but based on my experience, I would say that right now it's better to use AI and thinking about AI as a tool, and that's it. And most of the time, AI is not still enough to provide a complete invention. Most of the time, there is an implication of a human. So I would say it's good, but like that. Especially we are designing, for example, with my company, a tool for ideation. So the idea, you provide a technical problem, it will provide you some ideas of how to solve it. But that doesn't mean that the invention is done. It's just a step. And if we look at what happened in Asia, we know, for example, that there is a CEO of a company, a Chinese company, which is an AI. We have an AI which is a citizen of Tokyo. So what we see happening there is that they start giving a legal entity to an AI. And I think the future will be that if an AI has a legal entity, it could be considered as an inventor. But as long as AI will not have a legal entity, will not be a legal entity, it cannot be an inventor, basically. So I see, for me, it's very clear. Legal
Yeah.
entity could be an inventor, otherwise it's just a tool, basically.
Okay. Thank you very
And,
much. I
and
take
another
that.
question, yeah, no,
Yeah.
another tricky
Yeah.
question is, does a prior art generated by AI can be considered as a prior art? And that's huge, because otherwise, because again, what we consider as a prior art document, it's something that can be has been published before the filing of a patent application. But if it's generated by AI, is it valuable or not? And that's huge as a question, because you can imagine that
Absolutely.
today, I know a guy is trying to generate as many as ideas as possible with AI just to create some prior arts. So
Yeah. And to
that's huge.
protect his business model,
For
um,
example,
uh,
yeah,
to say nobody can patent it anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah. So for the last 5 minutes, I would like to switch to another very important
Yeah.
topic, and this is the ethics of AI. And simply, so people feel pretty much touched on AI. So we have now an AI which is making psychological discussions.
Yeah.
We have people who are really addicted to discuss with AI. Meanwhile, and obviously, I would say, especially people who have more or less no contact with AI so far, have not used it, have not tested it, they are to a certain extent afraid, but definitely skeptical. So
Yeah.
it's a bit a situation like in the early 80s when we had these personal computers and everybody was able to work with a computer now, and then we got a lot of discussion. So what is a computer, and is it a mechanical brain or an electronic brain, and these kind of things. And I think people need time to adapt to a world with AI, which we have now. So, what do you think? How can IP help? How can the IP world help to convince people that it is a reasonable tool, it's an important tool, and that it is simply necessary that we apply it? What do you think? How could we act here?
So you know how much I love IP. So I like to think that IP can solve so many things, and especially in this field, we talked just before about trust. And again, I would like to come back because it's related to your question. I mean, if a company is filing patent application on their AI solutions, that means that they are trying to reduce the black box effect to show that, okay, how it works. So people can, I think that this can increase the trust of the customers. This is one point. The other point is, of course, that we have all these algorithm biases, the issue that you train an AI on some data, and then you create some biases within the model itself because it was present in the data. So all these things can be more or less discussed thanks to IP because you show how it works. If you keep things as a trade secrets, it's understandable from a business point of view. But if you want to connect with the customers, if you want to create loyalty and trust, it's very difficult if you keep things as trade secrets. So for patent, I see things like that. Of course, if we talk about trademarks, it's also a way to, if you trademark, not like OpenAI, but if you trademark correctly your brand, and then you explain how you do things and so on, it's a good way, of course, to create trust. Everything about certifications and everything about, I think the customers need to be educated in a way. IP is a good way to do it. And something very important as well is because you patent it, so you explain, that's one part, but the other part, it means also if you provide a license, you can control, you can provide the guidelines on how to use the technology for good and not for bad. And this is something that you cannot do with if you publish only on archive a document. Anyone can take it, can do whatever he wants with the technology, bad things or good things. But if you provide a license on a patent, that means you can provide guidelines on how to use the technology and only for some specific use cases. So I think
So
IP is a very strong tool for that.
yeah, get your point. And Sandrine, I would like to bring that to the show because that is a very interesting point. So you focus on these black box effects, and I can't agree more that obviously you are forced from the office to disclose your technology, and this is a tricky thing sometimes with AI. Obviously, the training data, and that we don't know
Yeah.
exactly what the AI is doing. And now Sandrine says, okay, so why not going for an open source strategy,
Yeah.
like also some of the AI companies is doing? So, what is your point on that?
I love this question because it's a regular question that I have for my clients, especially in the field of AI and software in general. They love open source stuff, and I can understand that perfectly. And if it's based on the correct strategy because of the business strategy of the company, it's understandable and doable. What I like to do and what I like to say to my client in this situation is that you can have a patent and you can do open source at the same time. You can perfectly provide a free license on your patent for educational purpose only, for example. So that means you disclose everything, but for any commercial use, people will pay you. So you get royalties if you want, of course, on your patent. But for any educational purpose, everything is open source. So that means that you have the transparency, you show everything how it works, but it's protected and you can make money with it. So it's the best word. It's indeed being able to provide a free license for educational purpose and to get a regular patent application, I mean, for the business side.
And again, what we see is we have to play that as a business tool.
Yes.
I would like to remind to the audience that we give you the link to the Deeplex site, Digital IP Lexicon. You have here tons of information, also other AI related topics are here in the further information. And when you have any need for more information on the Deeplex, on the glossary, on the letter, so whenever we can help you with content and information on the world of IP, let us know them. I'm always just a direct message away on LinkedIn, and we are happy to provide you with that. For the moment, Benjamin, thank you very much for staying with us today. It was a great discussion. Thank you. We have a lot of questions and comments, so please stay with us on LinkedIn in the after show party. And to all of you, thank you for attending the Sapio IP live talks, business talks, and we will be back on the 18th, so next Tuesday, with Vasilis Kunis, and we talk about IP in the innovation process. And for all of you who are close to the weekend, or at least have some meetings between them now and the weekend, I wish you a very great time. Enjoy, and thank you very much for joining us. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye bye.